Hey, it's your girl Laura Rivera with Handle Rockland, and my pronouns are she and they. Since Maxxx Pleasure hasn't updated his security settings, I'm taking over! And when I'm not writing fan mail to Maxxx, I work at Candle as a prevention educator and part of the Youth Pride team as a social worker. Candle Youth Pride is a program out of Rockland, New York that serves LGBTQ plus high school and middle school students, young adults, and their allies through support groups, trainings, and events. And one of our most popular and biggest events is our Common Threads Youth Empowerment Retreat. And since we stand for queer youth 24/7, 365, we are so excited to celebrate Bi Plus visibility this month and talk to you about bisexuality and pansexuality. In our spaces, we've noticed a lot of conflict between the Bi Plus labels as people are trying to be more inclusive, and many people see a huge divide between pansexuality and bisexuality. But overall, a lot of those labels and attractions aren't really too different. So let's get to it. Many folks define bisexuality as either the attraction to two or more genders, while others describe bisexuality as the attraction to people who have the same gender identity or people who have different gender identity. Yes, we all know that bi means two, but just because it says two doesn't mean that there's only two. Being bilingual doesn't mean that there's only two languages in the world. So why would we assume that being bisexual only means you're attracted to two genders? While more of the world is starting to recognize that there are more than two genders, a lot of bi plus people feel that the traditional understanding of bisexual, being attracted to both men and women, was too limiting. And thanks to the powers of the internet, another sexual identity has been embraced by LGBTQ plus people, especially youth. Pansexual! What exactly is pansexuality? Story time! Queer people have existed throughout human history and within every single culture. So no one can say that there's one time or date that we can pinpoint to say when bisexuality was invented. Because we've been there, we stay there, and we're going to be there. However, in terms of US culture, I think a good starting point is the Kinsey Scale. So this dude, Alfred Kinsey, looking delicious. And he did look kind of tasty with his little bow tie, looking like a little sexy piece. He invented the Kinsey Scale. And after interviewing thousands of people for hours about their sex life, he concluded that sexuality was not just straight or homo, but it was a spectrum, going from 0, completely hetero, to exclusively homosexual. What was pretty radical was the idea that people's numbers could change and that sexuality was always in flux. So this isn't to say that there weren't some issues with the Kinsey Scale, but these ideas were pretty gangster for the 1940s, when even being a one or a little gay was considered a crime. So by the time that the Stonewall riots rolled around in 1969, LGBTQ activism was taking the country by storm. And you better believe that bisexual folks were an essential part of the movement. It was around this time that the word pansexual was really ramping up in US culture. In the 1970s, James Nolan published the first definition of pansexual in his book, The Third Sex. And in pop culture, singer Alice Cooper said in an interview that they envisioned a world where everyone would be bisexual. Imagine? And that pansexuality means that you're open to all kinds of sexual experiences with all kinds of people. And that is pretty cool. Now, in the 80s and 90s, the label pansexual was really starting to gain popularity in BDSM communities, originating in San Francisco, and was used as a term to describe someone who was open to play with others despite their sex or gender. However, during the AIDS crisis of this time, there was a huge shift in mainstream culture. As HIV started to affect people of all sexualities, mainstream media placed a lot of blame on the bisexual community, especially bisexual males, causing a lot of people to hide their bisexuality. As we entered the 2000s, we began to see more bi representation in media and pop cultures. Many celebrities began to proudly proclaim their bi identity, and we started to see more bi characters in film and TV, such as Callie Torres of Grey's Anatomy, Anna Tagaro on One Tree Hill, Catherine Mayfair on Desperate Housewives, and my personal throwback favorite, Ashley Davies from South of Nowhere. At the same time, many folks felt like this representation was very limited, particularly only highlighting characters who were cisgendered women and often representing their identity as confused or aphase, limiting their voices to the sidelines as sidekicks, and depicting their sexuality and relationships as only sexual in nature or slutty. Meanwhile, back on the pansexual ranch, my pansexuals millennials stay ready. And in the 2000s, millennials and Gen Zs were determined to take pansexual out of the bedroom and started to proclaim a term that was used more widely to describe their sexual and romantic feelings, saying that pansexual was not just something you do, but it's something you are. Hashtag Team Millennials. Oh, come on. So nowadays, many people with similar attractions fall under the bi plus umbrella. However, in our community, there's a big old divide between pansexuality and bisexuality. But in practice, those labels aren't really too different. So why is there such a divide? Well, many people are drawn to a pansexual identity because it's more inclusive of trans and genderqueer identities. Many pan people describe their sexuality as the attraction to other people regardless of their gender identity. For many folks, pansexuality represents freedom from binary gender, and it's a way of queering up traditional sex and relationship roles. Other folks identify with bisexuality and its deep roots in LGBTQ history. Many folks feel that bisexuality has always included queer and non-binary identities, and that people's rejection of bisexuality is contributing to bi stereotypes. Like bi people are confused, false. That bisexuality is shallow, false. And bisexual people are just sexually preoccupied, false, false, false. These stereotypes do not focus, and they completely erase other aspects of bi identity, including romantic attraction, gender presentation, and queer identity. The big controversy comes from the fact that words mean things. For the people in the back, words mean things. Language is just so powerful and so magical. And so when we say bi or pan, those words instantly conjure up a whole identity, a community, and a history filled with joy and with pain and with elders and ancestors. And so when we stand up and we say, I am bi, I am pan, we want to get it right, and we want respect on our names. Bottom line, everyone should feel comfortable with the labels or non-labels that they feel good about, and respect others in their right to choose the words that best fit them. Our bi plus community is stronger together, and this month is an awesome reminder to lift each other up. So thank you for watching. This video is part of Maxxx Pleasure's month-long Bi Plus Visibility Celebration. Maxxx is also raising funds for Candle's Youth Pride 23rd Annual Common Threads Youth Empowerment Retreat. So help him reach his goal by donating to the Give Out Day fundraiser page. And if you want to see more of me and Candle Youth Pride, check us out on social media and join us for some of our virtual free events.